the question is, how do you figure out what you want? And this is sort of like the $1,000,000 question. This is the thing that a lot of people are struggling with. So I see this, in when I'm working with people in the programs that I offer, this is one of the big things that people run up against. They say, okay, finally, I'm going to actually I get it. I'm going to start to take a look and see what is it that I want. And then they just seem to draw a blank. I say, well, gee, I don't know what I want. Well, okay, first of all, that kind of makes sense a little bit, right? If you've been practicing putting your attention on what you don't want for the last 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years or more, then what are you going to be really good at? You're going to be really good at putting your attention on what you don't want. You're going to know all of the things that you don't want. But what you won't have much experience with is what you do want. So it makes sense that at first, you're not going to be really skilled at that. It's like anything. I mean, it's like if all your life you've been speaking English, and then one day you realize that you really want to speak, I don't know, some other language, let's say Russian. Do you think you're going to be really good at speaking Russian on the first day? No, of course not. So cut yourself a little slack. It's okay if at first you don't know what you want. Just because you can't figure it out on the first day or the second day or the third day doesn't mean you won't figure it out. So have a little bit of patience with it. Just be honest about the fact that you've gotten really good at knowing what you don't want. And now you're switching gears intelligently and you're going to put your attention on what you do want. But that process there's a little bit of a learning curve. So just have some patience with that. Be kind of honest about how things work in this world. Now, with that said, there are really hard ways to do this, and then there are easier ways to do it. And what I found is one of the really hard ways to do it is to demand of yourself that you should figure out the thing that is like this super spiritual, evolved, perfect thing that's the one thing, like you have to nail it, and you only get one shot at it. Put a lot of pressure on yourself to get it perfect. That seems to be a recipe for a lot of hardship and unpleasantness and stress. So I don't recommend doing that to yourself. Here's another approach that I think works better, which is just start doing it. So you don't have to get it perfect to take the pressure off, right? So you don't have to figure out the one perfect thing that forever and ever you've got to be fully committed to, and you can't back out of that at all. And it's not like that. Don't do that to yourself. How about you just start and low pressure, no pressure? How about, just be like a child. So if you ask the child what the child wants, the child's like, I want the chocolate. I don't know what, when I was a kid, it was Nintendo. I don't know what kids want these days, but they know what they want. Now, is that what they ultimately want? No. Is that really going to give them lasting satisfaction? For the most part, no. So, of course, most of us have evolved a little bit. And so we can recognize that just being entirely impulsive may not give us the best results. But a lot of the time what we've done is we've cut ourselves off so much from that. So there's spontaneity, and then there's impulsiveness, and they kind of somewhat close in the same kind of ballpark. And so we kind of tend to cut off spontaneity with impulsiveness. But let's allow ourselves to have a little bit more of that spontaneity. Let's allow, even if we err and we end up being a little bit impulsive sometimes, maybe that would be better than demanding that we have to be perfect. Maybe we can allow that we have developed some skills along the way that allow us to have a little bit more success. Like we don't have to be so stressed and so anxious and so worried about making mistakes. Maybe it's okay if we make a little mistake here and there. So you can allow yourself just to be a little bit more open and honest about what you want, even if it's not the one perfect pure thing, even if it's a little bit leaning toward impulsive, you could still just start to open up and allow yourself that. And there are some ways that you can do that that are pretty low on the commitment scale, right? You don't have to go all in and say, well, just because I'm admitting, just because I'm giving voice to the fact that I might have this desire, that I'm married to it now. It doesn't have to be like that. You could just like journal, right? You could just write. You could just write stuff. You could just allow yourself just to let it come out. And you're not committing to it. You're not saying, I'm going to do this thing now and forever. You just say, yeah, this is a thing that came through my mind. And so it's like, there's this book, some of you may be familiar with it, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And the fundamental practice that she recommends in that book is just daily pages. You just fill 3 pages, and it doesn't matter what you put in here. You could write the same word over and over and over and fill 3 pages. The point is just to get things flowing. And if you do that every day, then things will start to flow, because, eventually you're going to kind of move on from just writing one word over and over and over, filling 3 pages. Your brain is going to say, I want something a little bit more interesting than that. It will start to invent something more interesting than that. It will start to open up to things. So just start to allow yourself this freedom to start to explore what you want. See how a lot of time we make things really difficult for ourselves because we say, oh no, I don't want to mess up. But it could be something as simple as just write 3 pages, and it doesn't matter what it is. It could be nonsense. But just to start to allow yourself, give yourself permission to start to allow things to flow, to open up and explore what it is that you desire. Let it start to flow, and don't keep yourself held so rigidly. Because what I've also found is that a lot of the time when I'm working with people, it's the people have just boxed themselves in so much. They've limited their options. And so they're so unhappy. And honestly, so many people get, and you might also relate to this. A lot of people will actually get to the point of contemplating, let's say, ways to exit this life. Like thinking, gee, wouldn't it be nice if maybe I just didn't have to wake up again, kind of thing. As an alternative to what they have produced for themselves, because they've limited themselves so much. It's like they got blinders on, and they say the only way that life can be is this way, and it sucks. And there's no other options for me. This is it. There's nothing else. It's just this misery, only this misery. It will only ever be this misery. And I've considered everything. It's like I have considered everything, and I've tried everything. And it seems true because of the blinders, right? It's like, to you, this is everything. It's like, look, I've looked and done everything, and this is all there is, and it all sucks. And so from that point of view, then people just logically, they conclude that it would be better not to wake up. And doesn't give very good results, right? But what I have found is that a lot of the time, just helping people to open up to see that there are more options available is kind of all it takes a lot of the time. And when I say all it takes, I don't mean that's all it takes and like that, all of a sudden they've got, they're on the yacht with the gorgeous spouse and all that stuff. I just mean that's all it takes in order to start to allow more flow, so that then suddenly it's like, oh, I could want something other than these things that I thought were everything that all sucked. It's like, oh, there's more available. There's way more available, way, way, way more available. And some of it might be nice. Some of it might be fulfilling. Some of it might be for me. So give yourself permission to start to explore things that you might enjoy, things that might actually be for you, things that might be satisfying and fulfilling for you. And again, Don't insist and demand that you have to come up with the one right thing now. It's just start to open yourself up and realize that there are more possibilities than what you have previously considered, and that some of those could be joyful, and that they're maybe available to you. Knowing what you want is very, very, very important. It's so fundamental. If you don't have that, you're going to struggle. So it's one of the most important things you can do. And if you're doing other stuff before you give some attention to that, then you're making things really painful for yourself. So I highly recommend regularly give some attention to that and make it something that can be light, enjoyable. Like I said, don't make it this heavy, burdensome thing. Haven't you done enough of that in your life? You know, it's like, I have to, I should, I must. How many of these things have you done in your life where you say, I have to lose the 25 pounds. I have to. Bullshit. You don't have to do anything.